Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Cowboys Takeover. I'm your host, Mr. Jason Kent. With me, as always, host. He's not even co-host. He's just host number one. I'll host number two. Mr. Aaron James. Man, after about 3 seasons, bud, got my wish, and I honestly, I'm quite upset about it though. Because when you hear the stories, they turn down. Cowboys, Mike McCarthy has been let go. He wasn't even let go. They just couldn't come to an agreement, and it kind of, to me, that's the worst part about it. They declined the Bears the right to interview him. And then everything you're reading, Jerry really did want to, if it feels like, and it sounds like Jerry kind of wanted to bring Mike back, but they just couldn't come to a mutual agreement. I'm assuming it's probably one of those, like you said, he probably won't be back on a 1-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that's what Jerry wanted him back on, and that's probably why they couldn't come to a mutual agreement. I'm sure none of that will come out, but man, I'm excited, but it kind of dampens my mood, Aaron, because as excited as I am, I feel like, man, this is a guy now that it's the talks, the hearing, Jerry's going to be the one to make the decision for the next head coach. How can I trust you to make a decision on the next head coach when it took you so long to get this decision right? And you look at it, you look at the last few offensive coordinators you let go. You kept Garrett, but you let Sean Payton go. He goes and does great things. You let Kellen Moore go. He's on the verge of winning a Super Bowl possibly. He's got the top offense in the NFL, 2,000-yard rusher. I get they have a good team overall, but you've let go a bunch of guys when you thought you've had your guy. You picked Jason Garrett over Sean Payton. You picked, Mike McCarthy over Kellen Moore. Sean Payton really worked out. Kellen Moore's working out, man. I don't know if I can trust him to bring in that next guy. What are your thoughts on all that kind of reading, kind of digesting? I know he's gone and we're kind of excited for it, but
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like Jerry really wanted him gone.
I hate to start this episode with a conspiracy theory, but what do you think about this? The fact that the Bears reach out and request an interview, it goes public. So now McCarthy thinks, okay, well, wait a minute. Now I have leverage because I have potentially another deal waiting for me and at least another team that's interested in me.
Oh,
Let me
1,000%.
I have more confidence now negotiating with Jerry.
He's in a position of strength. If the Bears, and the Bears aren't going to, I'm assuming, not going to reach out because they just don't want to even. I'm sure he's high on their list if they're asking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's that far fetched. I think once he heard that news and once it went in public, he knows he has the upper hand. There's no way he's going to take that 1-year deal. He doesn't need to sit out now.
Just it has to make some sort of impact, even if it's 1%. Because imagine yourself in the same shoes. You go out to a job interview or you're interviewing for your annual review. You're about to negotiate your salary and you get a call from a recruiter saying, hey, we'd love to have you. We'd love to sit down with you.
Yeah, your position of strength. You have the upper hand there. There's nothing they can really do.
So, if they end up hiring McCarthy, I think there might be something to that. And it would have been strategic on the Bears.
The Bears, right?
Yeah. It would have been strategic on the Bears and to say, hey, let's throw this out there and throw this wrench in there and, see if it comes back in our favor. But, moving on and here we are. And to me, I don't know if you would agree, but it just seems like one of the thinnest free agency markets in the coaching era.
I think there's a lot of young talent that it's kind of like that because to me, I think Ben Johnson, that's the guy, the Detroit offensive coordinator. Yeah, he's the guy I want really bad. To me, I think it's a lot more younger. There's not a lot of head coaches. I think established head coaches. I think a lot of the crop now is unknown NFL. You don't know how they've never shown anything. They've been great coordinators. Or in Dion's, I really hope it's not Dion, but in Dion's opportunity, he's a lifelong football player. great Hall of Famer. And he's done great. He's done good things at Colorado. But I do think college is a little different than NFL. I'm sure he'll get the respect, but I don't know if Deion's the guy I want as my head coach right now.
Yeah, there's pros and cons with Dion. I'm really not sure of his X's and O's IQ, right? So that kind of has me a little bit worried. He played both sides of the ball, so it's like, are we getting a defensive coach or an offensive coach? That kind of rumbles in your mind. His college record was 40-18, pretty good, but not all that dominant. If you're looking to bring in someone in the collegiate space. But the big positive to me, probably that Deion brings in with his swag, is the alpha male component and being able to sway Jerry into certain decisions because just of how he comes off with that swag that he has, where he's like, "Come on, brother, it's all love here. This is what I think is best for the team here, and this is why."
I don't know if see my only thing though. I don't know if Deion. He's not a yes guy. That's why I don't think. That's why I don't know if Jerry's really. Listen, could Deion be a great head coach in the NFL? Sure, he could. He's not the guy I want to give the reins to right now. He's not established. I get, at Jackson State, he did very well. He's like, I don't want to say anything about college. You're Deion Sanders. You're going to get recruits. Like you're one of. If Randy Moss went and those type of players are in college, you're expecting them to do well, and Deion got lucky, his kid, the kid's good. And Jackson or the Hunter kid, he went to Jackson State, followed him to Colorado. So you knew he could do good in college. I kind of understood that he has the name, he's starting winning. You're going to get those type of players, especially with the atmosphere that Deion can bring. You saw the people, the names, the celebrities that were going out to Colorado to make a difference. That makes a difference for an 18 and 19 and 20-year-old kid. You can get those great players. That's not going to matter in the NFL. That's not going to matter in Jerry. You have Jerry World. That's not a selling point for people. So to me, I would rather get a guy that's either been established head coach, or has shown to be an established coordinator, a guy that's played at a high level or coached at a high level some of these offenses and defenses around the NFL. Or one of those guys like not Vrabel at this point, but a Saleh that's been a great coordinator and just you feel maybe he was given an unfair shot at a place like Green Bay. Not Green Bay, I'm sorry, the Jets.
Yeah, Saleh, I root for the guy. I find myself rooting for him, but I just don't think he's shown enough from a coaching standpoint and being able to lead both sides of the ball. I mean, they had a really strong defense, and I know he's trying to do it with Zach Wilson. But even, when Rodgers comes on board and early on, they couldn't get things to work. And so I would feel like it would be too much of the same story coming into our situation with Saleh.
So looking at it, I figure, everybody's kind of, I don't think it was a shocker. McCarthy's gone. Looking now, Saleh, I don't know if he's definitely not my top guy. But when you're looking at it, who are a couple candidates that you've have your eye on, you kind of want to see Dallas maybe go after that realistically could turn this team around?
So I think, the hot ticket is Ben Johnson, in this coaching free agency market, what he's been able to do in Detroit. I think the positives for us is you got everything he's doing it with Jared Goff. Granted, he has a great offensive line. He has great running backs, and he has Amon-Ra St. Brown, some productive tight ends, but he's doing it with a pocket passer, and I think that is going to help us in transitioning it with Dak. You got CD, hopefully get something to pair up with Dowdle and get some development from our tight end group. There could be a really good immediate impact with someone like Ben Johnson. On the defensive side, you kind of still have that that question mark. Who's he going to bring in? If it's, I prefer obviously someone with experience to offset his lack of experience in being a head coach. I think Kellen Moore is a safe pick in many ways. The familiarity, the camaraderie, and you just know him and Dak have a really good relationship. He would be the yes man for Jerry Jones.
You're right about that.
And then again, you would hopefully get an experienced, DC in the room. I would take, Robert Saleh with either of these guys. I think that would be a great pairing. And then for me, my top pick is Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll, because if you look at his body of work and what he did in Seattle, with his impact in drafting players, including Russell Wilson, the Legion of Boom era, several years of consistent, a good amount of dominance in a really tough division, winning big games, beat Peyton Manning in a Super Bowl, should have beaten Tom Brady in a Super Bowl had he handed the ball off to Marshawn Lynch. So to me, I like Pete Carroll from a program building experience standpoint.
Guy's in his 70s though, like
mindset.
not to be mean.
Yeah.
Come on. Like you can't he's a guy I feel like if you're on the verge, maybe he's been there. You can't have it like program building. How old? He's 73 years old.
He's got it, man. I mean, he left Seattle in pretty good shape. Usually when coaches leave, it's a complete real rebuild situation. And as long as he's been there, he left them in pretty good shape. I mean, they started the season 4-0. They still have some really good pieces there. And that's, a lot of the influence that he brought in. He's not going to be calling the defensive or offensive plays. So he's going to hand those off to who he believes is the right fit.
So would he be who's your number, like out of those, like, or do you have any more as well? Or is that Pete, the last one?
I know, Jason Witten's name has been thrown around. I don't see that happening.
I hope not. That's worse than Dion. That's terrible.
I think Cliff Kingsbury could be a little interesting. And then I don't think I'd be, if it was up to me, I would want to interview Doug Peterson.
Okay.
I think he was dealt a bad hand in Jacksonville. Before that Jacksonville experience, he was one of my favorite coaches in the league, probably top 5, where I just felt like, man, this guy, any given Sunday,
really,
he can pull out a plan to win. I feel like he was dealt a bad hand, and Lawrence, I feel is more so
definitely
underperforming, closer to a bust than anything else.
Okay, so who's your number one out of all the guys you kind of named? Who would you be your top candidate? The guy you're going chips all in for.
If all these guys have their hands up saying, I'll take the job, I'll probably take Pete Carroll first.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, everybody's got their own opinion. Pete's a guy that's been there. He's done it. He's got himself a Super Bowl. Dougie P's got himself a Super Bowl. So it's hard to really argue against either one of those guys. And like you said, had Pete's ego maybe not gotten in the way, or I don't know if it's his or Russ's. But if they just listen, would it give Skittles the ball? Skittles gets in. He just I love listening to him talk about it. It was so great because I don't know if you've ever watched the show The League. It's a fantasy football show. And they really, they have some stars on. And Marshawn's a guy that was on the show a couple episodes. And I think their last season, it was, they have the show. They're on the beach and somebody's like, toss me a beer. And Marshawn's just like, give it to me. I'll run it over. He's like, just toss me the beer. I'll just toss it to him. No, I'll run it. And I think it's funny because he throws the beer. The dude falls over a flaming grill. It's just, it's funny. Marshawn was okay. Like, some people would not be able to parry that. They would not be able to be okay with that. But yeah, so I do like, to me, I think a lot of those guys are the same dudes I was kind of thinking about. Ben Johnson to me is the number one. And I really think kind of exactly what you said. what you've been able to see him do with Jared Goff. Jared Goff was a guy that had Sean McVay, and he looks much better now than he ever did with Sean McVay. I get that they were more of a running team when he was there. They had Todd Gurley, who was a phenomenal running back. To really see what they've been able to do with Goff when you get weapons around him, and I don't know if Dallas has. Okay, no, that's wrong. Dallas doesn't have better weapons. Receiving core could be close. It depends on who you like better with CD and Amon Ra. I think they're a little deeper, probably a little bit better of a tight end. But I'd like to see what he could do with Dak. I think getting an offensive guy in here. The problem is it's tough to bring in an offensive coordinator, offensive head coach to me when you still have Dak and you kind of are locked up with Dak. I don't know if there's an out on that contract at any point where they can get out without getting a huge hit, because it wasn't that long. But because to me, I'd love to see them build a program. I think Ben Johnson's the guy offensively, and if you get a guy like him, I think you can then maybe turn around and go get a guy like Saleh as your DC. I know Rex Ryan was talked about a DC here, so if you get a guy like Ben Johnson, who is a very young offensive coordinator, you give him the head coach position, let him run the offense, and you get a legitimate defensive mind in there. Coordinator, if you can. I would even be against keeping
Zimmer.
There we go. Zimmer. Wouldn't be against keeping him, because he's been around the game a long time. So I think that, to me, he's my number one. I did see some of the other names. Aaron Glenn is a guy, whose name's thrown around. He's up for a coaching candidate. Who's our defensive coordinator or our DB's coach? I mean,
Al Harris.
Al Harris. He's a guy that might get a shot, or you can even, I would be okay if you bring in Ben Johnson, maybe moving Al Harris up to DC. He's been around this team for a while now, knows the team. And I'm sure the guy, he's a very good player in his time. So to me, I think it's Ben Johnson. I'd like Aaron. Wouldn't mind Aaron Glenn. He's probably third or fourth. To me, it's I think Saleh is my number two. I really like what he gives you defensively. Question is, who do you go after for offensive coordinator at that point? You want to get somebody in here that probably runs more of a West Coast kind of style offense, something where Dak can. I think that's a type of offensive guy you're going to have to get, because I don't think you can change much. So I think the offensive side's tough. I don't like Cliff Kingsbury, because you've seen he was in Arizona. They literally drafted a quarterback the year before, I think in the top 5. Then he goes and takes, he gets hired, takes Kyler Murray. Then he goes, after he gets fired, he's really going, now he went to Washington. So it really seems, and even in college, he had that running style quarterback. So I don't know if his offense would really translate to what Dallas does right now, just because Dak's not that type of guy. But to me, I think it's narrowed down you gotta, you hope Ben Johnson's in play, or you really go after Saleh. I think those are my top 2 dudes. Listen, if Dion, the talks I read today, they're still ongoing with Dion. I don't know if I'd be upset with them. It would be an intriguing hire, but I don't know how high my optimism would be if you got Prime in here. I don't know, because he seems very realistic. I know he's talked up Boulder, Colorado, but I can't believe if he really is, if he's really that dedicated there, if he's still talking to Jerry. It really seems like he may be the next guy. I cannot hear you. You're muted. That's why. But yeah, I just don't know if with Dion, I think he's out of play. I don't want him. I saw him. What's called to me, I put it 15%, but that's because I just don't think he will be a good NFL head coach right now. I don't think he's had enough time. I do agree with you in the college level that if you hire that type of coach, you need to go with an established coach at the college level. Dion hasn't put the work in there, I think, I don't want to say the work, but he's not getting those guys there. So it's kind of one of those things where he hasn't shown it enough to me in college to deserve the shot in the NFL.
Yeah, and that's really what I was getting at. I don't think his record has been as impressive, but it would be an experiment. It'd kind of be like, okay, we don't know what to expect. Let's see what happens.
No other coach after what Deion's did at Colorado would be getting a job like the
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys. He's getting that job because of his name. Listen, I know a lot of Deion has a lot of fans. I loved him as a kid. Loved him because he was a player. Loved the guy. Was a huge remember, everybody high stepped when they intercepted the ball going in for a touchdown.
Oh,
Everybody had the hand behind the back, lean the back with the high step. So this has nothing to do with me hating Deion. No other coach at Colorado, going to Colorado, would get a job with the Dallas Cowboys unless you had to step. You go Colorado, then you move your way up to the big schools. That's my issue. That's the only thing. That's the only reason I don't want Deion. Do I doubt he would be a great head coach? No, I think he could probably still be a great one. But I want guys that are more established. But yeah, listen, Ben Johnson. I don't know if Pete Carroll. Who's your number two? Because if Pete Carroll's one, I mean,
I guess I would go Ben Johnson over Kellen Moore, just because I want to more so in favor of trying something new than potentially reverting back to the same results. So yeah. But the big thing, I guess, what I've heard on some of the sports networks is that he is going to demand a very large salary.
I was that's what I'd heard as well. Well, because he's going to have the offers too, so it's definitely worthy.
Yeah, and I think if a week ago my number one pick would have been Mike Vrabel, because of what he was able to do, and then the Patriots snag him.
I agree with you there. That's why I really, outside of Benja, I want to try to find. That's why I love Saleh, because it seems like a lot of these defensive coordinators are the ones that are crushing it these days. The recent ones, Vrabel, I think, did very well in Tennessee. Houston right now with D'Amico Ryans. He really worked out. So you're getting a lot of these ex-linebacker players. That's why, man, I Saleh's but Saleh I think's good. Or, that's why I really would like, somebody like that. I think a big defensive guy to me, I think would be a better hire.
I think there's something to what you're saying, because with the offensive guys that we're talking, it makes me think of Mike McDaniels, who's down with the Dolphins.
Okay. I'd like him, but
Tua, very productive. What did he have? Almost 5,000 yards. He had like an amazing year, but defensively, even with the coordinator that's now with the Eagles, they just couldn't get anything done. Couldn't win in big games.
Yeah.
So I feel I have some fear of going offensive minded. Great, but there's just no complement on the other side of the ball.
I will agree with you with the offense, just because too, it's going to be tough for an offensive mind to try to come in here and change what Dallas is right now. You're not getting a Chicago Bears where you're getting the quarter. You get your pick of the litter. You're not a number one pick. You don't even have a top 5 pick to go get number one. You pretty much have an established offensive identity at this point, with Dak and CD. So that's why, I know I'd love Ben Johnson, but I think he needs some time. You can't just judge him off of now, because you're really, going off of what Dak is. And I don't think he's that great. Always good to take a shot at Dak. But that's why I would like a defensive guy more. But
who's the DC for the Chiefs?
Oh, is it still Spags? I was going to say, I think it's still Spags. Yeah, I wouldn't mind Spags. He's got them playing good ball. They have their pass rushers. You got to get somebody they need. The problem is when I see all these other teams, man, I see teams like the Eagles. You see San Fran. They're making great picks. Dallas has seemed not to hit a lot now in those later rounds. And it stinks to see a guy like, and I know he's hurt now, but the linebacker from Eagles just got hurt. N'Kobe Dean, where the Cowboys pass on him. Um, I I think my problem is I think it's probably going to be a Kellen Moore type of hiring that is a yes to Jerry, and Jerry still wants to kind of control it. I don't think he's going to allow anybody else to come in that wants to, because I think Ben Johnson and Deion Sanders are going to want to, Parcells it. If you want me to cook, let me buy the groceries. And I don't think he wants that type of coach in here right now.
The other risk that we have in letting McCarthy go, and we saw it with Dan Quinn, as these coaches move on, they take players with them. Players naturally want to go with them and play for them. Quinn took 4 or 5 of our players.
And Washington makes the damn playoffs.
Washington makes
and wins a game.
Yes, they're major underdogs against the Lions, but they have
our defense goes to poop this year.
Yes.
Maybe Dan Quinn was the guy.
So, we have quite a bit of free agents. So who knows which of those will be interested in wanting to go and play for Coach Mike. And, of the coaches that we've talked about, it's like, okay, well, how many players are going to be excited to come and play for a Kellen Moore or a Ben Johnson or even my guy, Pete Carroll?
I think a guy like Ben Johnson, you may get some offensive guys. That's why I think a guy like Saleh, I think he's respected. I think a guy like Ben Johnson's respected. I think those type of guys, even I think Pete Carroll's definitely respected enough to get those dudes. And another issue, I know we're not going to get into it tonight because, we are getting ready to wrap it up. But I think a lot of the offensive, or a lot of the coordinators too, a lot of the coordinators, coaches, this was the last year as well. So there may be a lot, I think there's going to be a lot of turnover. If you see a guy like Pete Carroll, they'll probably let him pick a staff. But if you get a guy like a younger, new guy, you'll probably get Jerry picking everybody else. So,
yeah, and you know what? If we go with Mike Zimmer as a head coach before the Patriots call him, which they probably did, but Josh McDaniels is still out there.
Oh, he wouldn't. I don't know. There's a lot of guys. They narrowed it down. I think the top 5 you really see. I think the kind of consensus: Kellen Moore, Ben Johnson, kind of Aaron Glenn, those type of dudes. No real established dudes. I didn't see Pete Carroll's name out there. I'd be okay with it. You never know with the turnover year to year. You never know. But there's a lot of guys out there. We'll find out hopefully within the next upcoming weeks who the next coach is. And that's when our next episode will be. I know we're saying we're going to put it off till McCarthy decision. McCarthy's here. Now our next episode will be once they hire. Once they get that hiring, we'll come in, we'll discuss it, we'll break it down, kind of go over that hiring track record, and then kind of that'll be our final episode, probably of the year, quote unquote, for 2024, because the season's over, and we'll kind of break down our year, what went wrong, did anything encourage us, kind of go over the season as a whole, and we'll break down that as well. So we'll let everyone know when that's coming out. As soon as you guys hear head coaching news, just know it's coming soon. As soon as you get that hire, know that'll be
what percentage chance it happens before the Super Bowl?
I think how interested are they in a guy like Ben Johnson? I think, when's he go out? Because you hear Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson are really the top, a lot of up there. It depends on who else. That you hear the talks are still going with Deion. You don't hear really talks about anybody else. So I don't know. I'm going to say I would like to think 100% it's done by then. I would hope, but I would say I'm going to hope 75. Let's go 75% chance. I think Jerry gets this thing done quickly.
Okay.
Because you need to know. What about you? What are you thinking?
I think 40% chance it gets done by Super Bowl. Yeah, I think they're going to take their time.
Well,
because they try to negotiate with McCarthy, and means they probably didn't have a plan B. They probably thought. They probably assumed McCarthy was happy to be there.
I agree with you.
And would be there as long as they'd have him.
I agree. That's I agree with you there. But yeah, so we thank everyone who's checking us out today or tonight. Check us out on the Cowboys Takeover podcast. Remember, if you guys are watching us there or on Facebook, give us a like, give us a subscribe, get those notifications when we do go live. Again, our next episode will be when they do make that hiring. So whether it's, like Aaron said, 40% after the Super Bowl, or he's team 6% after. I'm hoping 75% before. But we'll be back with that end of year show, kind of end of year breakdown, and kind of breaking down the head coach, kind of where they've been, what they've done, and our expectation for them going forward. So for Mr. Aaron James, Jason Kent, appreciate you all. Give us a like, give us a follow. We'll catch you when they make our final decision for our head coach. Enjoy your weekend. Hopefully you're not here where it's like 20 degrees. Hopefully you're out towards Aaron where it's probably higher than 17, It's terrible here. Enjoy your weekend, everyone.